Hello and welcome to Lesson 6 of Software Design and Development for Higher Computing Science. Today we're going to be looking at opening text files. We're going to open them and read them. So we're going to take a look at Replit. I've got a new one here called Open Text Files 1, and I'm going to open a folder that I have prepared some text files. So I've got this text file called people.txt. It's just a list of names that I randomly come up with. And we've got one called scores.txt, which is a bunch of random names and some numbers that represent their high scores in computer games, something along those lines. I've also got a file called a CSV, but we'll cover those in the next lesson. Now, Replit is brilliant because we have a file list here. We can add files. We can add a new file by creating it. We could just give it a name, .txt, and in this file we can add some data like this. Beautiful, but I have a prepared one, so I'm going to delete this file and we will work with one of these. So let's drag in people.txt. We could upload it by clicking on the three dots and choosing upload file, or you can just drag it in like this. Nice. And we can see that this text file has all the names that I showed you previously. Now, how do we open a file in Python? Well, we need a variable to contain that file. I like to call it file. It's just a habit, and Replit thinks it's a protected keyword. That's why it turns it blue, but it's not. We can use it for our file. So we're going to create a variable called file, and it will store the file that we open. How do we open the file? We use the open function. Open, and in quotations, we type the name of the file. And note that we must include the file extension, .txt. Now, we could leave it there, but it's always a good idea to indicate what mode you're opening it in. Now, after the comma, the second parameter is the open mode. In this case, I'm opening it in read mode. You could open it in write mode, and there are also read and write mode, and there's read plus and all fancy things. But for now, we're just doing read mode. Now, if I print the file, you'll see that it doesn't really display anything. It's like a Python's representation of the file itself. So how do we see the text that's in the file? Well, the easiest way is to just loop through all of the lines in the file. We can do that by saying for line in file, print the line. Now, you might be wondering, what is line? It's just a variable. I could have called it anything I want, like this. I'll copy that and paste it there. And it's going to print each line in the file. You may notice there are some new lines in between each line of text. Let's change this back to line. The reason I choose line is just because it's a meaningful variable name that represents what it is that this variable contains. File is just an iterable. What that means is there are things in it that we can iterate over. Just like an array has things in it that we can iterate over, files have lines that we can iterate over. We can loop through the first line, then the second line, then third line, and so on. So each line contains one of these lines. Now, why is it printing a new line between each line of text? That's because at the end of the line, there is this invisible new line character. I'll demonstrate this by creating an array. Now, if we create an array and just call it lines, and each time around, we're going to do lines.append the line, and then at the end, we'll print all the lines. So lines is the array that contains each line in the file. So here we are. It's actually containing all the names. We could probably call it names. And you can see that after each name, there is a new line character. \n is the Python equivalent of an enter, the new line character. You'll notice that Leona, the last name, doesn't have a new line. That's because she's the last line. There is no new line after that. Now, you might be thinking, well, is this okay? Can we just leave it the way it is? Because if we print a name, it's going to print the name and a new line after it. Well, it's not really okay. So what we can do instead is when we're appending the line, strip away all the extra characters first. So the new line characters, we can strip it away. We can do that using a function called .strip. And what this does is it just strips away any new lines or blank space before and after the line that we're applying this function to. So now when I run it, all those new line characters are gone. Beautiful, eh? So this is the really quick and easy way to open a file and store the data in that file in an array. Just like this, only 5 lines of code. But I have a second file called scores.txt, and the data is separated by commas. This is commonly known as a comma-separated values file, but in this case we've stored it in a txt. This is also a comma-separated values file, the CSV, but here we're working with text at the moment. So let's drag this one in, scores.txt, and if I change the file that we're opening to scores.txt, and I run this, you'll see that the array contains the entire line with the numbers included. So how do we get these numbers out? Well, let's say we've got separate arrays to store each of these. So we've got scores 1, 2, and scores 3. We'll change lines to names because it's a more appropriate variable name. So what we want to do, we don't want to append the entire line to the names array. What we want to do is separate each of these pieces of data that is separated by the commas. We want to split it into the appropriate arrays. So how do we do that? Well, let's get rid of this line of code here. And we're going to create a new variable. I'm just going to call it data, and it will store each piece of data on this first line. And the next time round, it'll contain each piece of data on the second line, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do, we're going to say data equals the line dot split, and I'm going to split it at the comma. So because it's separated by commas, I'm going to split it at the comma. So what this line does is it takes the line, it finds the comma, and it splits this entire line of data into an array separated by commas. That might not make much sense at the moment, but if I print data, what you'll see is arrays being printed each time. So here we've got the name, score 1, score 2, score 3. You'll notice it also has that \n, but we can get rid of that in a number of ways, not just using the strip, but I'll show you that in a second. So now that I've got the data, what I can do is, in the names array, I can append the data at location 0. In the scores 1 array, I can append the data in location 1, and likewise for scores 2 and 3. And I made a goof. There we go. Now you may notice that these scores are being stored as strings, but these are numbers. So let's not append just the data. Let's convert it to an integer first. Int. And we'll do it for all three. So now if I print scores 3, you'll notice that the new line characters are gone now. Wait, you see this? There we are. So these are all of the scores that were in the third column. And because they're integers, they don't have the new line character because that's not part of a number. So we can get rid of the new line character by using .strip if it's a line of text, or if it's a number, just convert it to an integer and that strips it anyway. So looking back at previous lessons, let's turn this into more of a higher computing standard rather than this. This is more like National 5 where it's all one program. Let's convert this into a function. So what we would do is, we can still use all this, but at the start, we would define a function. Let's call this getData. Remember, your programs should kind of be split into inputs, processes, and outputs, and this is technically an input, even though we're getting the data from a text file. And then at the end of this function, we want to return all of the data that we've stored. So we've stored names, scores 1, scores 2, and scores 3. Now this is using a thing called parallel arrays. Each of these arrays are kind of running in parallel. So the index 0 contains the data for person 1. Olaf's scores. And we can demonstrate that. Let's create some variables to store the result of the getData function. And remember, this is the main program. So each of these variables is going to contain whatever this function returns. And the position of these variables is important. Here I've got a variable called n. It will contain whatever the names array contained in the function. And s1 contains the scores 1, and so on. So you can see that these are going to be arrays full of data that we got from the text file. And we can see that if at the end I print n, we'll see that it contains all the names. Beautiful. But if I print n at location 0, it's going to print only Olaf. And I can do the same for S1 at location 0, and S2 and S3 at location 0. So this is going to print all of Olaf's data. So here we have Olaf 1644, 4096, etc. Olaf 1644, 4096, 4451. Beautiful! And then from there, you can just continue on your merry way. Let's do one last thing and create a record structure to store this instead. So let's create a class. And because these are scores from a game, let's just call it a gamer. So each gamer is going to have a function that initializes their data with the name equal to nothing, the score 1 equal to 0, score 2 equal to 0, and score 3 equal to 0. So instead of all of these arrays, we can just have one array that stores all of that data for them. Each time around the loop, I'm going to create a new gamer. Notice the difference between the capital G with brackets and the small g with no brackets. So this is a variable that contains one single gamer record. Now instead of names.append data1, I would say gamer.name equals data. And we could do the same here. Gamer.scores2 equals the int version of data at location 1, and so on for the rest of it. So here, each time around each line in the file, I'm going to get the data, create a new gamer record, and give that gamer record the data from the file on that line. Then once I've gotten all that data in that gamer, I'm going to append that gamer to the gamers array. And at the end, I'm just going to return all the gamers. So down here, we don't need all of these arrays, we just need one array that stores it all. But the difference here is it's an array of gamer records. So to get the data, let's say I want to get the data for the first person, I say gamers at location 0, that's the first person, dot name. That gets the first person's name from this record. So if I run this, it should say Olaf. There we go. We can do the same for the scores. And let's see. Can anyone spot the mistake I've made? Why is it 0, 0, 0? Because earlier in the loop, I said scores 1. Well, look, it's score 1 without an S. So let's fix that. This is why you test your programs before handing them in to your teacher. There we go, much better. Right, there we have it. I know it's been quite quick, but to load data from a file, you use the open function, you store it in a variable, and you can loop through each line in the file and get the data in that way. Hope you've enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.